You can't afford anything here. Just move along. The words sliced through the polished air like a cold knife, neat, quiet, and meant to humiliate. Chrome sparkled under the showroom lights. The air carried the scent of new leather, waxed ambition, and quiet judgment. Every car gleamed as if it had never touched asphalt. Their glossy curves lined up like trophies for the ultra wealthy, and in the middle of it stood a man in a charcoal hoodie and dark jeans. His sneakers were spotless, but had no logos. His presence was calm, deliberate. He walked slowly, hands behind his back, gaze fixed on the matte, black electric coupe under a halo of light. The salesman clocked him the second he walked in, and did absolutely nothing. No hello, no nod, no offer of assistance, until that one line shattered the silence. Polite enough to avoid a lawsuit, cruel enough to spark a lawsuit, Marcus Chen didn't flinch. He looked at the man. No. He looked through him. The room was frozen. Even the receptionist stopped mid-keystroke. Somewhere in the back, a phone quietly tilted up. Recording. Marcus took a slow step toward the car. His fingers hovered above the hood, reverent but confident. That's when the salesman slid between him and the coupe with surgical precision. No touching. We've had issues before. And there it was. The assumption. The stereotype. The quiet message. This place isn't for you. Marcus had heard it before, felt it in 1,000 micro-expressions. And now, he saw it reflected back at him in a showroom full of glass and ego. His jaw tensed. He'd been here before. Not in this building, but in this moment. Only difference now. He wasn't a broke 22-year-old with a cracked laptop and dreams too big for his bank account. Now, he was the dream, and they had no idea. The salesman gave a soft, condescending chuckle. I am not trying to be rude, man, it's just. This place is for real clients. Real clients. Those words echoed louder than any engine in the room. He remembered being 15, chased out of a dealership parking lot for standing too close to a Mercedes. Now, with a net worth larger than most of the board members of the company that owned this dealership, he was being told to move along. And maybe, just maybe, that's exactly what he wouldn't do. The man didn't realize it yet, but that hoodie wasn't hiding poverty. It was hiding power, and it was about to speak. Marcus didn't move. He let the silence stretch. Let the discomfort simmer. Let every pair of eyes in the showroom wait. Not for a reaction, but for a confirmation that he wasn't going to fight back. That he would take the insult, tuck his pride into his hoodie, and walk out the same way he came in. But he didn't. Instead, he smiled. It wasn't big. It wasn't even warm. It was the kind of smile that chilled the air. Slow, steady, calculated. I was actually interested in that coupe, he said softly, nodding toward the electric flagship. But I suppose I'll pass. If the service is as limited as the imagination here. The salesman blinked, caught off guard. His smirk cracked. Just a little. I just don't want to waste your time, the man said, defensive now. You know, these builds require pre-approval. They start at 208,000 plus options, Marcus said, finishing the sentence for him. He stepped back, casually pulling his phone from his pocket. One swipe, one tap, and he held it to his ear. Yeah, it's me. Go ahead with the wire. All of it. That was all he said. No names, no dollar amounts, just calm, simple instructions. The kind of thing only said by someone who didn't need to flex. The salesman looked uncomfortable now. He shifted on his polished shoes, suddenly unsure if the script he'd been following still applied. In the background, the receptionist leaned closer to her monitor. Another salesman whispered something to a colleague by the espresso bar. Marcus hung up, and then, as if he were simply asking for directions, he looked at the man in front of him. What's your name? He asked. Andrew. Andrew, Marcus repeated, tasting the name like it was a code about to unlock something. You are going to want to remember this day. Andrew's brow furrowed. Excuse me? Marcus didn't answer. He walked past him, not fast, not slow, just enough to make people get out of the way. He didn't need to yell. He didn't need to demand attention. His presence now commanded it. The electric coupe gleamed behind him as he approached the glass door to the side office, the one labeled Dealer Principal. Inside, someone was already waiting. A man in a dark gray suit, late 50s, holding a leather folder, and tapping nervously at his watch. When Marcus entered, the man stood instantly. Mr. Chen, apologies for the delay. I have everything ready. Andrew, still at the main floor, stared through the glass like he'd seen a ghost. Marcus didn't look back. He wasn't here to buy a car anymore. He was here to take the keys to the entire kingdom. And no one was ready. Inside the office, the walls were lined with framed awards and glossy photos. Executives shaking hands. Ribbon cuttings. Press features with fake smiles. Marcus didn't glance at any of them. He walked straight to the table, dropped into the chair like it was already his, and opened the leather folder. The man in the gray suit, Richard, Regional Acquisition Head, adjusted his tie and spoke quickly. We finalized everything this morning. Purchase price accepted. Seller's lawyer signed off at 8:03 a.m. Eastern. Transfer of ownership will be official the moment your wire clears. Which, it cleared 30 seconds ago, Marcus said flatly. Richard exhaled, like he'd been holding his breath since sunrise. Yes, sir. That makes this your dealership now. No dramatic music. No confetti, just silence. And power shifting under the carpet. Marcus leaned back in the chair, eyes calm but razor sharp. Through the glass, he could still see Andrew out on the floor, now joined by two other employees, whispering nervously. Marcus's phone buzzed. He glanced at it. A text from Carla. Wire confirmed. Press release embargo lifted. Shall we notify staff? He typed 2 words. Do it. Then he turned back to Richard. You'll stay on through the transition. 2 weeks. Full salary. Then I want fresh blood running this place. Someone who remembers what it's like to be ignored. Richard nodded, eyes wide. Understood. Marcus stood. He didn't take the folder. Didn't need to. Every name, every clause, every zero, already burned into memory. As he stepped toward the door, he paused. By the way, he said, without turning, make sure Andrew knows who signed his next paycheck. Richard gave a nervous chuckle. Oh, I think he's already figuring that out. Marcus opened the office door. The floor had changed. The silence wasn't passive anymore. It was charged, bracing. People stopped mid-step. Conversations froze. The air hung heavy with realization. And then it happened. The giant digital screen behind the reception desk flickered once, then loaded a new message. Welcome Marcus Chen Fei owner. Chen Automotive Group. A few people gasped. One woman dropped her latte. Phones came out fast, fingers scrambling to hit record. Andrew, still standing in the same spot, looked like he'd swallowed a nail. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. I didn't know. Marcus didn't wait for an apology. He didn't need one. He walked past the coupe, the one he'd been told not to touch, stopped, placed his palm flat on the hood. The surface was warm, smooth. His reflection looked back at him. No hoodie now, just truth. He turned to face the floor. I won't be long, he said, voice calm but booming across the space. Just here to clean house. And in that moment, everyone realized, this wasn't just a visit. It was a reckoning 10 years in the making. The temperature of the room didn't change, but everything else did. Andrew took a slow step back. No one had touched him. No one had spoken directly to him. Yet he looked like a man shrinking under invisible weight. His cheeks had lost color. His hands, once confidently crossed, now dangled awkwardly by his sides. Mr. Chen, he began, voice brittle. I hope there are no hard feelings. I was just trying to protect the showroom's integrity. Marcus raised a hand. Not aggressively, not dismissively, just enough to say, the air snapped shut like a vault door. A woman in a cream blazer stepped forward from the far end of the room. The floor manager. From the name tag. She looked rattled, but composed. Sir. She said, addressing Marcus. Would you like to speak with the staff in the conference room? We're all ready to hear anything you need. Marcus turned his head slowly, eyes unreadable. Not yet, he said. The room held its breath. He walked toward the center of the showroom, stopping beneath the massive company banner, a sleek metallic logo that once symbolized a different owner. His gaze lifted toward it, silent for a moment. Then he turned around and looked at Andrew. You said I didn't belong, Marcus said, voice soft. Andrew didn't reply. He couldn't. Why? Marcus continued. Because of the hoodie? The skin. The quiet way I walk. Andrew stammered. It was a mistake. It wasn't. Marcus cut in, still calm. It was your instinct. And that's the problem. The floor manager stepped beside Andrew, now clearly uneasy. Mr. Chen, we'd be honored if you gave us a chance to. You'll get your chance, Marcus said, but not today. He pulled his phone from his pocket again. One tap, speaker on. Carla, he said. Phase 1. A voice on the other end, clear, composed, female, replied instantly. Yes, sir. All regional managers are being notified. Press blast goes live in 5. Staff change protocol ready on your word. Marcus ended the call without another word. Andrew opened his mouth again, but whatever excuse he was about to offer died on his tongue. Phones buzzed across the showroom. One by one, staff members glanced down, eyes widening as they read the headline that had just gone live. Black CEO buys out dealership that refused him service. Fay full management overhaul begins today. Gasps. One sharp intake of breath. A soft, "Oh my God," from someone near the service desk. Marcus walked to the front desk. The receptionist, who had laughed politely at Andrew's jokes earlier, stood frozen behind her screen. He looked at her. You'll stay, he said gently. I saw you hesitate. That matters. Then he looked across the room. Everyone else. Conference room. Now, and as the doors closed behind them, they didn't walk into a meeting. They walked into a reckoning. The conference room was sleek. All glass walls, brushed steel fixtures, and a long mahogany table that could seat 20. Today, it felt smaller, much smaller. Andrew sat near the far end, shoulders drawn in, glancing every few seconds toward the door, like he was hoping it might stay shut. The floor manager, along with 4 other senior staff members, settled uneasily into their chairs. The silence was a vacuum, sucking the confidence from everyone in it. Marcus entered last. He didn't bring papers. He didn't need a laptop. He brought memory, precision, power, and he brought receipts. Not the kind printed from cash registers, but the kind that lived in reputations. He didn't sit. He stood at the head of the table, resting both hands lightly on the back of a leather chair. You all know what happened out there, he said. But this isn't just about one moment. No one responded. He let the silence stretch. This is about the culture you've built, or allowed to thrive. A culture that lets someone judge worth based on wristwatches, not worth ethic. On shoes, not soul. The floor manager cleared her throat softly. Mr. Chen, we didn't mean to. I don't care what you meant. Marcus cut in, voice still calm. I care what you normalized. Andrew shifted in his seat. His leg bounced under the table, trying to burn nervous energy he couldn't outrun. Marcus moved around the table slowly, gaze steady on each person as he passed. I watched this team for 15 minutes before anyone said a word to me. I watched people notice me, then decide I wasn't worth their time. I watched snickers, side glances, and silence. He paused behind Andrew, and I watched you lie. Andrew stiffened. I didn't. You said, I couldn't afford anything here, Marcus said, leaning in slightly. But what you really meant was, people like me shouldn't try. Andrew's lips parted, but no sound came. Marcus stood upright again, addressing the room. I don't want an apology, he said. I want accountability. I want systems. I want no one ever to walk into one of my showrooms and feel smaller than the car they're looking at. He tapped the table once, sharply, effective immediately. Every employee here will undergo anti-bias and equity training. Not the online checkbox version. Real training. Real audits. The room remained quiet. 3 of you, he continued, pointing gently to the manager Andrew, and another rep, will step down today. HR has your letters. Your severance is generous. Not because you deserve it, but because I do things differently. The woman gasped audibly. Mr. Chen, please. This was just one mistake. No, Marcus said, locking eyes with her. This was the surface of rot, and I don't patch rot. I remove it. He turned toward the door, then paused. For the rest of you, prove to me this place can be better. You've got 1 month. And with that, he walked out. Outside the conference room, the news was already spreading. and the real shock hadn't even begun. Marcus stepped out of the conference room and into a different world. The showroom buzzed now, not with sales chatter or the soft pitch of luxury marketing, but with tension. And eyes. So many eyes. Clients who had witnessed the scene from the start were still lingering. A young couple by the white convertible whispered behind cupped hands. Two delivery men at the door paused mid-step, scanning the faces inside as if they could smell the shift in power. A boy, maybe 8 years old, tugged at his mother's coat and pointed at Marcus. "Is he the boss?" he asked. Marcus heard it. He smiled. Just slightly, then nodded to the boy. "Not just the boss, baby," his mother whispered back. "That's the owner." Outside, news vans were already pulling up. A journalist with a mic in hand was adjusting her earpiece as the cameraman framed the shot. The dealership's name now sat under a new headline crawling across the local news banner. Viral moment. Black CEO shuts down discrimination with surprise dealership takeover. Marcus's phone buzzed. Carla again. Reuters and Forbes requesting interviews. HR sent resignation packets. Staff morale report incoming. Legal says we're covered. He typed back. Push Forbes to tomorrow. Let the dust settle. And Carla. ADD one more note. Change the showroom slogan, she replied instantly. To what? He stared at the glass doors for a second, then typed, belonging starts at the front door. Then, he looked up and saw her, Elena, the junior associate who'd said nothing during the insult, but she had hesitated. Her eyes hadn't laughed. She had looked uncomfortable. She approached now. Carefully, Mr. Chen? She asked. Yes, I just wanted to say I am sorry. I didn't speak up earlier. I should have. He studied her face. Young, nervous, but honest. You didn't join in, he said, and that matters. Now let's see if you'll help build something better. She blinked, surprised, then nodded quickly. I will. Marcus handed her a card. Starting next week. You are working with Carla, Equity Fay Amp, Culture Division. Let's see if you've got more than silence in you. She took the card with both hands, like it was glass. Behind them, reporters were already filming. Staff were whispering. Phones continued buzzing with fresh headlines. But Marcus stood still. Let them film. Let them tweet. Let them wonder. Because this wasn't about clicks. It was about control. And for the first time in a long time, it belonged to the right person. And somewhere across town, a boardroom full of executives realized Marcus Chen's war had only just begun. 10 miles away, in a glass tower nestled between hedge funds and law firms, a boardroom came to life in chaos. Chen did what? The VP of Brand Strategy slammed her tablet onto the table, her voice slicing through the room like a blade. A dozen executives stared at the live news feed blinking on the wall. Marcus Chen, standing calmly in front of the dealership, surrounded by flashing cameras. He bought it? Another voice asked, half in disbelief, half in awe. Not just bought it, someone muttered, scrolling through headlines. Rebranded. Fired 3 execs. Launched an internal audit. He's making a goddamn statement. Silence. Then the CEO of the parent company, a graying man in a deep navy suit, finally spoke. How long have we been courting Marcus Chen for partnership? A murmur rippled around the room. 18 months. The CMO replied quietly. We pitched him for co-branded EV lines, exclusive logistics, even a minority equity offer. He ghosted after Q2 last year. The CEO leaned back in his chair. Now we know why. He turned to his assistant. Get him on the phone, today. Back at the dealership, Marcus was in the back office, watching the news ticker scroll across multiple screens. Carla had arrived, calm as ever. Laptop already open. 3 local papers, she said. 1 national feature pending. Also, call just came in from Apex Motors Corporate. Marcus didn't look up. They're panicking, he said flatly. Yes, he leaned forward, elbows on the desk. I want every dealership that's ever dismissed a customer like me to feel that panic. Carla nodded. We could expand the program. Anonymous customer audits. Real-time reporting. Live bias tracking through customer feedback. Your name would set a new standard. Marcus stared at the screen. A close-up image showed Andrew mid-blink, mouth open, frozen in that moment of realization. The caption read, the look of power reversed. He smiled. Start with the ones that ignored our pitch decks last year. Already pulled the list. She slid a file across the table. Marcus opened it. Dozens of dealership logos. Notes on their practices. Rejection emails. Biased remarks. Missed opportunities. He ran a finger down the list and tapped one. Start with them, he said, and make it loud. Carla's fingers danced across the keys. Done. Marcus stood, walked to the window. Outside, kids were posing for photos next to the dealership sign. Parents whispering to each other. A black teenager was filming a TikTok in front of the glass door, narrating the story with wide eyes and quick hands. This wasn't just news. This was mythology in the making. And while others scrambled to catch up, Marcus was already 10 steps ahead, rewriting the rules, one dealership at a time. 3 days later, the headquarters of Chen Automotive Group pulsed with activity. Floor to ceiling monitors lit up every wall. Maps of dealership locations. Live sentiment data. Compliance audits. All flickering in real time. In the center stood a digital dashboard titled Equity Index. Public Trust vs Employee Culture. Marcus stood before it, arms crossed. Behind him, a small task force. Legal, data, ops, brand, and Carla waited for instructions. He pointed to a red zone glowing in the Midwest. Why are we getting flagged in Columbus? He asked. Customer complaint filed this morning, Carla said, scrolling. A woman in a headscarf was told she'd need to come back with her husband if she wanted to test drive. Marcus's face didn't change. Who said it? Sales rep, 32 years old. No prior reports, but audio confirms it. Is the regional manager aware? Not yet. Tell him he has 10 minutes to act, or I'll replace him before lunch. Someone in the room coughed, but no one spoke. Carla typed. Marcus turned to the group. I don't care if it's a franchise, a legacy name, or some fourth-generation dealership that thinks they're untouchable. If my name's on the sign, our values walk through the door first. He walked to a whiteboard filled with pinned case studies. We're not here to punish, he continued. We're here to prove that belonging is more than a slogan. I want a framework, metrics, benchmarks, and I want every other CEO in the industry to look at us and wonder why the hell they didn't think of this first. Carla added quietly. You are designing the first anti-bias system baked into the retail automotive experience. Marcus nodded. Exactly. And when they copy us, they'll still be 2 years behind. He paused, then turned to one of the team members, an older white man in operations who hadn't spoken much. Jeffrey, you worked for Prestige Auto for 22 years. You know the old way better than anyone. How do we outgrow it? Jeffrey cleared his throat. Voice steady. Hire different. Measure better. Fire faster. The room stilled. Marcus smiled. That's it? He turned back to Carla. Run the first public pilot. 3 locations. Detroit, Atlanta, Oakland. She nodded. Branded? Call it the welcome standard. The team exchanged looks. That phrase would travel. He looked out the window. We didn't come to flip tables, he said softly. We came to build new ones. And while some still whispered he'd overreacted, others were already rewriting their own policies, afraid he hadn't gone far enough. A week after the incident, Marcus's story was no longer just trending. Harvard Business Review published a full feature, Reputation Architecture: How Marcus Chen Rebuilt a Brand with Justice at its Core. CNN aired a primetime segment. LinkedIn turned his quote, "I don't patch rot, I remove it," into a viral post with over 3 million shares. But what no one expected was how fast the dominoes would fall. Across the country, other automotive groups began issuing quiet memos. Diversity audits were ordered. Showroom policies rewritten. Customer service scripts edited. Prestige Auto Group, once the golden child of the industry, announced a belonging initiative. Its CEO avoided using Marcus's name, but the mimicry was obvious. Carla was reading through the press release on her tablet when Marcus walked in. They're copying you without credit, she said. They're not copying me, Marcus replied, pulling off his jacket. They're scrambling. She raised an eyebrow. Should we respond? No, he said. We stay focused. While they polish PR, we'll polish culture. He walked over to the glass board where the 3 pilot dealerships were now color-coded. Detroit Fay Green, Atlanta. Fay Yellow, Oakland. Fay Blue. Detroit's numbers, he asked. Carla handed him a file. Customer satisfaction up 34% in 7 days. Staff turnover 0. First time in 6 quarters. He nodded. And the incident in Oakland? He continued. Handled internally. Junior staff reported a misstep. Management corrected it before the customer complained. Marcus smiled. That's how I know it's working. Culture doesn't need cameras to behave. Carla looked up. You know what they're saying behind closed doors, right? Which they? The CEOs. The old guard. The ones who laughed when you launched your own auto group. Marcus leaned against the table. They're not laughing anymore. They're watching their customers leave, one TikTok at a time. Outside the office window, a crowd had gathered again, not protesting, but photographing. A local high school had brought a class to see the dealership that made headlines. Marcus stepped out for just a moment. A teacher approached, wide-eyed. Mr. Chen, sorry, we didn't plan this as a formal visit. The students just. They asked to see where the video happened. He looked at the group of teens in matching sweatshirts. One held a notebook. Another clutched a phone on record. I am not a landmark, Marcus said, kindly, but firmly. Then he softened. But if they want to ask questions, I'll give them answers. And as the students circled close, what began as a viral moment was becoming a living blueprint. And Marcus wasn't done teaching yet. The students sat in a semicircle, cross-legged on the floor of the showroom, not on chairs, not at desks. Right there, between the matte black coupe and the vending machine, Marcus stood in front of them. No podium, no mic, just a folded chair he never sat in. A teacher tried to introduce him formally. Mr. Chen is the CEO of... Marcus held up a hand, smiling. Let's skip the titles. Call me Marcus. The teens relaxed instantly. He pointed to one. You? What's your dream job? The boy blinked. Engineer. Tesla. Maybe. Why Tesla? They build the future. Marcus nodded. What if I told you your interview might happen the second you walk through a parking lot? Silence. He looked around. You'll be judged before you speak, by how you dress, walk, smile. What zip code you came from. He pointed to his hoodie. They didn't see a CEO. They saw this. Another student raised her hand. How did you not snap, like scream at them? He chuckled. Because I'd already won. I didn't need noise. I needed leverage. Another asked. How do you get leverage? Marcus's face shifted. Not cold, not cocky, just real. Build something they can't ignore. And when they finally see you, you own the table. Or you bring your own. Pens scratched, phones recorded. A girl whispered to her friend. This should be on Netflix. The teacher chuckled nervously. We weren't expecting a speech. Marcus looked at him. That wasn't a speech. That was a warning. He scanned the room. Look, you are going to walk into rooms where you are already doubted, and you'll be tempted to shrink, to prove you are harmless. Don't. Let your presence feel expensive, even when your shoes aren't. He pointed to the dealership floor. This space was designed to make people feel small. Now it makes them feel seen. That didn't happen by accident. It happened because I remembered what it felt like to be ignored, and I refused to forget. The room stilled. Then a student, the quietest one sitting at the back, finally spoke. Do you think anyone can do what you did? Marcus turned to him. Number. The student looked down. But, Marcus added, I think you can. And outside that glass wall, the press was already spinning headlines. But none of them captured what really changed that day. That night, Marcus declined every interview request. CNN, BBC, NPR, even Oprah's team had called. He said the same thing to all of them. I don't need a microphone. I've got momentum. Instead, he walked through the Detroit showroom alone. Lights dimmed, staff gone home, security quiet. Just him and the hum of climate control. His fingers brushed across the hood of that same matte black coupe, now sold ironically to a young black entrepreneur who had driven 4 hours just to buy from the guy who changed the game. Marcus smiled at the thought. Carla entered, holding 2 mugs of tea. You are still here, she said. So are you. They sat by the front window, where earlier the students had stood taking photos. Now, only reflections. She pulled out her tablet. Want to see the numbers? Number. She paused, surprised. I want to see the stories. She slid over an email. Subject. Thank you. My son walked in and was finally seen. Another. I was that kid in the hoodie once. I work for you now. A third. Your staff told my immigrant father. You are always welcome here, he cried in the car. Marcus read them silently. He closed the tablet and looked at Carla. Do you feel that? She tilted her head. What? The shift. She nodded slowly. Yes, it's irreversible now. In the distance, the city glowed, not louder, just clearer, like its heartbeat had changed tempo. Carla sipped her tea. You know what they'll say in 10 years? She asked. That this was a PR stunt? No, she said. They'll say you planned this. Every second of it. That it was all strategy. Marcus smiled, looking out the window. They won't be wrong, but what they won't understand is that this wasn't revenge. This was repair. And Marcus wasn't done. 6 months later, the dealership looked nothing like it once had. Gone were the velvet ropes and icy stares. Gone were the unspoken rules about real customers. In their place, warm lighting, open floor plans, and a staff that asked everyone the same first question. What brought you in today? And how can we make you feel at home? Marcus returned unannounced. No press, no security detail. Just him in a crisp shirt and the same charcoal hoodie that started it all. As he stepped inside, a new hire greeted him. A young Latino man with an easy smile. Welcome to Chen Automotive, he said. First time visiting. Marcus smiled. Something like that. The man didn't recognize him, and that was perfect. Because it meant the system now worked without him. He strolled past the rows of cars. Watched as an elderly woman was offered water and 3 trim options before anyone asked her about financing. Watched a teenage girl being walked through the engine specs of a sports model. Without condescension, without assumption. In the corner, a boy in a wheelchair was wheeled up beside a coupe with a ramp installed by default. Not on request. By design. That was the difference. At the back wall, Marcus paused. There it was. A photo. Black frame, gold plaque. A still from that day. The exact moment he stood in front of the showroom as the new owner. Captioned with 6 words. Belonging starts at the front door. Next to it, a guest book. Marcus picked up the pen, flipped to the last page. He didn't write his name. He wrote a sentence. You were never the problem. The system was. He closed the book and walked out. But this time, the doors didn't slide shut behind him. They stayed open.